let's bring in our good friend Tucker Carlson, who woke up extra early for us. How much do you miss us on the weekends, by the way, Tucker?
A lot, actually. I still wake up at 3 just to watch.
That's so nice of you. All right, well, off the top, I want to get your thoughts on this exclusive interview tonight that Sean Hannity did with Julian Assange. Flew over to London for this interview where Assange, we have a clip of this, basically saying he's 1,000% sure that this did not come from Russia, this WikiLeaks. Let's take a listen.
Can you say to the American people unequivocally that you did not get this information about the DNC, John Podesta's emails? Can you tell the American people 1,000% you did not get it from Russia or anybody associated with Russia?
We can say, we have said repeatedly over the last 2 months that our source is not the Russian government and it is not a state party.
So if it wasn't the Russian government and it wasn't a hack, it would have been a leak from probably somebody inside the DNC.
Well, we don't know is the point. I mean, Assange, and I haven't seen the whole interview, it airs tonight, but Assange in previous interviews, in the last interview he did, said he had not even been contacted by intelligence agencies or anybody looking into the story from the United States. Nobody's even asked him from the U.S. government, which is kind of remarkable since it was through, of course, WikiLeaks that this information became public. You have to ask yourself, if he's lying, what's the point of his lying? Julian Assange is a man of the left. He's not an ally of Donald Trump. He went on to say in his interview with Sean that he believes the purpose of all of this story is to delegitimize Trump. Why would he be acting on Trump's behalf? What is his motive for doing that? I don't see that he has one. We're missing part of the story. You've noticed, perhaps, that a number of journalists on the left, Andrew Coburn, for example, at Harper's, or Glenn Greenwald at The Intercept, have jumped up and said, wait a second, there's no evidence that Russia was behind this. Are they tools of the Kremlin, too? I mean, a lot of sober people who have no motive to lie are asking the obvious question, which is, do we really know that Putin was behind this? And the answer, I think, is we don't really know that.
Right. Tucker, you know, you're talking motives, which is exactly right. Who's doing what and why? How in Washington, in light of all of these competing motives, how do we get to the bottom of who it actually is? Is it going to be a congressional committee? Is it White House? Is it intelligence being finally released to the public? How do we get to a point where we've got certainty and not just speculation?
Well, that's a great question, and I think we need some level of certainty just because the stakes are so high. I mean, this story has delegitimized the election in the minds of many voters, and no matter whom you voted for, that's bad news. Catherine Herridge reported last night that sometime before President-elect Trump's inauguration on the 20th, we're apparently going to see a declassification of some of the evidence collected by the intelligence agencies that will, I guess, either prove or disprove this allegation that the Russian government was behind this. But I think that's necessary. That would be without a lot of precedent. They don't normally do that, but I think that we deserve, as voters, some backup here. The idea that we just sort of are assured by anonymous sources in the press that we know what happened and we all sort of nod, you know, of course we do. That's not really good enough for a story of this magnitude.
Yeah, well, we're going to hear a lot more tonight with that exclusive. The part one of this exclusive interview is airing tonight, 10 p.m. Eastern, right here on the Fox News channel, so make sure you tune into that. But we also want to get your thoughts. Nancy Pelosi now pleading with Republicans. She's saying, give Obamacare, give it a second look. Here's what she said, Tucker.
The fact is, it's the old thing of going into a china shop. You break it, you own it. And they're dealing with something that is very, when I say complex, it's sophisticated.
Tucker, it's so complex and so sophisticated, we need to protect it.
Yeah, actually, they broke it, and they own it. And on a party line vote, they passed it and are solely responsible for it. I mean, so what's the fear? That if Obamacare is repealed or changed, premiums will go up? People will lose their doctors? The middle class will find itself, you know, bearing an unsustainable burden? Right. I mean, that's already happened. So, I mean, this is insane. And you have to sort of wonder why in the 6 or 7 years since this passed, why has the president himself not conceded in public, look, my signature legislation hasn't worked as intended. Let's try and fix it. Sure. He hasn't. Vanity? I mean, I can't think of another explanation, but they should have, and they wouldn't be facing this problem right now if they had done that.
Nancy Pelosi was also very busy tweeting over the weekend, much like Donald Trump. She said Republicans will leave millions of Americans without health insurance and worsen the coverage of many more. My daughter Mary actually has Obamacare, and it's terrible. She hates it.
Well, of course it's terrible, and it was written by lobbyists. I mean, that's the look. Young people ought to be able to buy a plan that suits them. We all should be able to, but because of the efforts of lobbyists, these mandates were packed in here, and they've enriched a lot of people in Washington, including my neighbors. I can promise you that. But that doesn't help the average person. I mean, why shouldn't I be able to choose a plan that suits my needs and those of my kids? But I'm not allowed to because of the influence of lobbyists on this bill.
Well, going beyond Nancy Pelosi, other Democrats, one Democrat on his way out is the president. President Obama is, we're not sure if he'll be fully out when he's out, but he's giving kind of farewell series of speeches. He did it with a video from the White House, and will be giving a speech on Tuesday in Chicago to sort of wrap his legacy. Some people are pointing to, obviously it's a natural home for Barack Obama, but Chicago's seen its share of problems, including the homicide rate in 2016, which unfortunately has skyrocketed. We had a guest on, well, you also got the murder rate, the shooting, 4,331 shootings. It's one of those things.
Trump was tweeting about it yesterday.
He's saying if you need the help, you got to ask the federal government for it. I spoke to Brunel Donald-Che earlier this morning, Tucker. She's been a lifelong Democrat. She switched her vote this time, voted for Mr. Trump. She's from Chicago, and here's what she told me about that.
You made promises of hope and change with jobs and vocational programs that never came. And so people sat on life support, literally, waiting for a change, waiting for jobs, waiting for education. And so what happens with idle hands? It's the devil's workshop. People, instead of going to work, putting on their suit and ties and uniforms, they're going to pick up guns to feed their families, sell drugs to feed their families. And what I think that President Obama should do is he should get behind the president-elect like never before, help the president-elect do what he couldn't do, which is help our inner cities.
I mean, 8 years later, the president goes home to his city, and it is a sad, sad situation.
Well, it is, and it's a great city in a lot of ways. It's a great city if you're rich, for sure. It's a nice place to live, but it's a deeply troubled city. The murder rate, as you said, 56% rise over last year. There's something really wrong. But it's also a very badly run city. Chicago has almost a $70 billion unfunded pension liability for a city. That's not the state of Illinois. That's just the city of Chicago. That's totally unsustainable, and it's the fruits, of course, of bad management for decades. Now, Obama hasn't run Chicago, but people who funded his campaign, who began his political career, with whom he agrees on almost every issue, have. And nobody ever notes that. I mean, if you take the ideas of the modern Democratic Party and apply them to a city, you wind up with a place like Chicago. And no one ever answers for that.
It's a microcosm. You're exactly right. With the unfunded liabilities at the federal level, the debt at the federal level, the support of the Black Lives Matter movement, it's all reflected in Chicago.
Wouldn't this be a bigger story in the mainstream legacy press, Tucker, if this were a Republican-led city?
Well, of course it would. And by the way, it would be fair. I mean, if you had a city that was kind of a test case for your ideas, a sort of, biosphere 2, where you took all your theories and applied them to people and waited 50 years, I think it'd be fair to say this is a referendum on your ideas. And if you wound up with a place like Chicago or Detroit or Cleveland or Toledo, a lot of these, and there are other factors, of course, but liberal ideas, governing ideas are part of it, and they all failed, then I think it would be fair to say, well, maybe you should reassess your ideas, wouldn't it?
No
I think it would
That's
be.
a great point. Tucker, good to see you this morning. Also, you are doing so great at night. We're loving watching you.
Well, thank you, Abby.
Happy New Year.
Great to see you. Thanks.